This week is a public service announcement. You might be suffering from one of these 5 viruses, or you might know someone that is. That's this week on Think Tank Tuesday. Hi, I'm Paul Potratz, and welcome to this week's Think Tank Tuesday. So there's a virus, there's 5 viruses going around, and they've been around for a number of years, and you probably know somebody. In fact, you might even be an individual that's suffering from one of these viruses, or you could even have 2 or 3 or 4 of them, in fact. So you're probably wondering, what are you talking about? Is it the Zika virus? Zika virus, and what's another virus that's going around? Okay, anyway, so it's nothing like that. So I have them. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go. Number 1. Are you guys ready? Are you sure? All right, can I get a drum roll? All right, number 1. All right, good. The shiny object virus. You know anybody with the shiny object virus? Think about it. Of course you do. And then you have the competitive advantage virus. Is it making sense? And then you have the cutting edge virus. I've heard that so many times. I go to conferences and I talk to business owners and they're like, I want some cutting edge technology. I want to be cutting edge. I'm like, okay, not a problem. So cutting edge virus. And then there's the new and exciting technology virus, not to be confused with the shiny object virus, okay? And then there's the change scares me virus. So you got to think about that. I mean, think about it as a marketer, as a business owner. And let me kind of back up. What really started this conversation is I was geeking out. In other words, I was talking about technologies with a friend of mine. So I was on the phone with Michael Hayes with NADA. He's a NADA, National Auto Dealer Association. He's an instructor for the NADA Academy. And so we're geeking out and we're talking about Facebook Live, we're talking about Instagram, video, we're talking about Snapchat, we're talking about Gmail ads. I mean, we're just talking about all this stuff. And he says, Paul. And I was like, what? And he said, well, I think it's important to point out that what I'm doing when I'm training with the managers is I have to bring them back to the basics, and I have to talk about the basics because there's so many vendors out there, and working with all these vendors, you have to know how to read your analytics. You have to know what is it that you really need, or is it a vendor that's pushing the shiny object on you and you have that virus and you want it? And I said, boy, that's so true. And then we started geeking out about that. Of what are the things that you need to really pay attention to? What's really critically important? Because while we have all these new technologies developing and new things coming, what should you really focus on? And I think this is a perfect segue to stop right here just for a minute. And I'm going to go to a break. And this commercial we're going to run is really going to talk about shiny objects and, what you should be paying attention to. So just watch the commercial and you'll see me. We'll be right back.
It was really fun, very fast-paced, very entertaining, very interactive. I would absolutely recommend this to someone else. There's so many resources out there, but this is probably the best bang for your buck that I've ever seen.
Paul was a great speaker and very well-dressed, I may say. Very funny, entertaining, extremely clear. I would definitely recommend this to anyone with a business. Anyone can definitely benefit from this workshop.
And this really was very practical, and it really caught my attention. I would absolutely recommend this experience to anyone.
All right, welcome back. So we're talking about the 5 viruses, and if you don't know what they are, then rewind the video and watch the 5 viruses. But with the viruses, what I'm really talking about is new technology and new things coming, but also being very cautious as the new technologies are coming out. Let me stop right there for a second. Let me tell you, I'm not telling you not to change. I'm not telling you not to try new technology. No. I'm telling you to try the new technology. I'm telling you to expand, because if there's one thing that you have to realize in business today, and it's more so than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and definitely 10 years ago, is change should be your number one focus. But what I am telling you, as you try new technologies and you change new things, what is it that you expect? I mean, what goals have you set? So for example, let's say you try a new digital technology. Let's say it's like Gmail ads. What are the goals that you expect? So many times what happens, talking about the 5 viruses, the shiny object syndrome or whatever it might be, that you're like, oh, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. And you're trying all of these things, but you haven't stopped and you haven't said, you haven't really zoned in like a business owner should and said, all right, if I do this, what should my expectations be? In other words, how am I going to know if it's going to be successful? And so many times over the years through my career, I've seen business owners try new things and they would get 45 days into it and say, no, cancel it, get rid of it, it's not working. And it's like, well, how do you know? You didn't set up the parameters, you didn't set up the goals, you didn't set up the benchmarks, whatever you want to call it, to know that it's being successful. So as you're trying new technologies, try them one at a time. I mean, you can try numerous at the same time, but each one you need to measure individual, that you need to look at and say, okay, what are my goals? How am I going to know if this is going to be successful? So that's step one that I want you to do as you're trying new technologies, as you're suffering from one of these viruses. All right, step two that's critically important is if you're trying a new technology, a new way of advertising, new way of marketing, whatever it might be, say for example, well, for us, for example, we are just launching an audio podcast. And so here's a shameless plug for it called The Growth Mindset. It's on iTunes, it'll be on Google Play, it's going to be on iHeartRadio. But The Growth Mindset, I'm all excited, I'm getting the mics and everything, and I got the mic and the P-popper and the little dashboard with all the little switches and everything to make my voice sound deep or whatever I want to do. And I'm getting all excited about the technology, and then Christy comes to me and goes, whoa, wait. She's the voice of reason, just so we know, okay? I'm the gas, she's the brake. So anyway, she goes, wait, so with this podcast, what exactly are you expecting to get from it? And I'm like, what did I say, Kurt? I was like, I don't know. I just thought we need to do a podcast so we can increase audience. And she goes, okay, there, you're on to something. So you're going to use the podcast to increase audience so we can get more awareness. I was like, yeah, right, exactly. That's what we're doing. All right, let's go. And she goes, no, wait. So you're going to increase audience, but how are you going to know if you're increasing audience? Because as we were starting this podcast, I jumped into it both feet first, and I thought, what we're going to do is we'll just set up an RSS feed, which is a really simple syndication. We'll put it on our website. We'll host it from that. And then it made me dig in and start researching, because I'm like one of those, I'm the shiny object syndrome guy that will sit around and watch, play with CRMs and everything. Look at analytics. So then I found a program called Libsyn, and then I load the podcast in there, and it tells me how many people are downloading, where are they from, what device are they on. It gives me all kinds of analytical data. So now we can set goals and say, all right, what are we doing as a company to promote this podcast? Are we getting more subscribers? Where are we getting the subscribers at? Which podcast, which audio files or which individual podcast are really relatable, who's really listening to them, who likes them, which ones are flops, which ones are not. So she made a great point. When we're doing something, how are we measuring it? What do we want? Why are we doing it? And then the other point to make too, so I'm kind of mushing them all together and just follow me, because I generally need a translator if you know me in person, okay? But so the next point of it, so we're doing the growth mindset to increase audience. But here's the next point that you need to really focus on. If we're doing something like that, how does it work with all of the other types of marketing, promotion, social media advertising that we do? In other words, the Growth Mindset podcast, how does it help, or how does it feed off of, or how does it segue from Think Tank Tuesday, this video you're watching right now? How does it segue with Hard Facts? And if you're not signed up for Hard Facts, that's Samantha. So if you want a female version of information, then that's Samantha. It comes out every Friday. So how does it feed with that? How does it feed back to the website? So I hope I'm making sense. Guys, am I making sense here, or am I just rambling way too much on that? Does it make sense? You can be honest. Am I rambling too much on it? No? You're just saying that. Okay. So anyway, So you kind of think about it. So case in point, an example, with our podcast that we're doing, we have commercials inside the podcast that help educate people because it's a brand new audience, help tell people, hey, we got Think Tank Tuesday. Hey, we have a full service advertising agency. So everything feeds off of one another. And I've seen so many times that people would say, oh, I'm going to do an audio, a podcast, or I'm going to do a Facebook post, or I'm going to do a video, YouTube videos, whatever the kick they get on because they get excited about one of those 5 viruses that they have. And then all of a sudden they start launching stuff, but it does not have a return effect. And then you get discouraged and then you say, guess what? It doesn't work. So I hope that makes sense because I'm on a soapbox now. So let me see. What else did I write down here? What happens? Oh, here's the big one. You guys on Facebook, here's the big one. Pay attention to this, okay? All right, so now we're doing something, and let's say it's whatever it is. We can use the podcast for an example, or Gmail ads, or whatever you're using. What is the action? You got a new technology, you've got it in place, you're trying it, and of course the end result is to generate more leads or more phone calls or whatever it is. Generally, it's to increase your sales. That's the end result. But before you get to the sale point, you've got this new technology, this new tool, and now someone engages with it. So what happens when you get engagement? And it kind of goes back, and I talked to the guy that runs Proctor's Theater, and I loved his analogy on the way he works through stuff. He says he pushes like 7 things at the same time, that he's pushing 7 different, he's got momentum going on 7 different projects, but all of the projects are basically have a string tied to one another. I know that's analytical. Well, anyway, you get my point. So when he's pushing one, it's dragging the others, and that's the way marketing has to work. So here it is. Now you're doing the new thing. Now you have someone that engages. What's the next logical step? Case in point, our growth mindset. Someone goes to the website, they engage with the growth mindset, they watch the video, we have commercials, or listen to the audio file. Sorry, I'm so used to videos. So they engage with it, and now we have retargeting code that talks specific about what we talked about in the growth mindset. They see the ads, we ask them to like our Facebook page, we go out, we connect with them on LinkedIn, Twitter. So we're finding them on all these different things. So now they engage. What happens? So I'm kind of rolling there, I'm kind of rambling, but what happens when someone engages? What is your process? And that's where most businesses fail, is with process. But here's the next point. What if someone doesn't engage? In other words, you send something out, someone goes to a website page, what I mean by engagement, they don't fill in a lead form, they don't pick up the phone and call you, they don't watch your video. What happens next? What are you doing when they engage, and what are you doing when they don't engage? Because you have to look at all of those different scenarios. So think about that. So that's the engagement factor. Now let's take it one step farther. So once you sell that product or that service, what happens then? And that's where most companies really miss out. That it seems like the majority of companies, what they're doing is they're out there advertising, going, new customer. You get the new customer, you sell them, and you're like, good, done, on, let's find another new customer. Instead of working that customer for the relationship and building the relationship and building the rapport, because guess what? They've got friends, they've got neighbors, they've got people they're talking to, and they can also buy from you again. That's this week's topic, so think about it. Do you have one of the viruses? And if you do, it's fine to have the virus, but understand what the side effects are to that virus and what you're going to do as you start to, deal with your virus. See you next week.